Ebola has come to New York. I mean, we were expecting it. It was only a matter of time. And, of course, the hospitals had been preparing. They'd been doing dry runs for something like this. But now we know the details. This man came over. He was working in Guinea. He was working with Doctors Without Borders. And he didn't feel any kind of fever or fatigue until very recently. He'd been taking his temperature twice a day, as the protocol has it.
I want to say this. We've been talking about this. Brendan Greeley, you've been doing it. What was your inclination as you read of isolation?
So the key here is to look at the difference between the way Doctors Without Borders handle this, because they actually do treatment in countries where there are Ebola outbreaks, and the way the CDC handles it. And what you're seeing is the difference between calling the Doctors Without Borders and saying you have a fever and calling the CDC. And as you see the CDC develop and improve its procedures, this is what Bellevue is doing now. What they're really doing is adopting what Doctors Without Borders has always done.
I want to frame for our global audience, if you're at Columbia Physicians and Surgeons, Columbia PNS, as Dr. Spencer is, you can't pick a better hospital in America, and certainly in Greater New York. That's where he works typically. Right now he's at Bellevue. Started in 1763, the first maternity ward. They made popular the syringe. They own emergency care. As he goes in there last night. Scarlet?
Well, he did also have contact with several people. Not that many, but 3 others. And there's also a driver, because he took an Uber after he went bowling, apparently. And Uber has put out a statement saying that neither our driver partner nor any of his subsequent passengers are at risk. Specifically, he says, we've provided our records and we're able to confirm that one of our driver partners in New York provided a ride to the patient yesterday evening. We immediately contacted the necessary organizations and the necessary departments, which stated that neither a driver partner nor any of his subsequent passengers are at risk.
We're learning as we go here. This is we're in a place with Ebola where we've never been before. And one thing that you're also seeing is Brad Wieners. He's an editor at Bloomberg Businessweek. He's with Doctors Without Borders right now, reporting on a feature in Brussels. And he emailed me last night to say that they have already changed their own protocol. You now are automatically, if you work for the organizations, in quarantine for 21 days.
Rather than allowed to travel.
Rather than allowed to travel. So we're already changing. So this is not going to happen again in the future. We already know that you're not allowed to come home, take an Uber, go bowling, go back to your apartment. So this we're changing as it goes.
And that's the thing. I mean, he knew that he had been somewhere that was high risk, yet when he came back, he didn't have a temperature, so he could continue with his normal life.
Right.
It's when you have a temperature that you are contagious. Is that correct?
It's when you have a temperature that you're contagious. You are not contagious until you start to show symptoms. But who wants to titrate that exactly and figure out exactly how long you can be there?
To the point of titrate and the virology of Ebola, and we'll be speaking, folks, through Bloomberg Surveillance this morning to medical experts on this. I also worry about a changing virus. The distinction between a virus and a bacterium is you get a lot of change and surprise as the virus moves along. I don't want to be inflammatory, but that's got to be front and center here.
I feel like the virus as it is bad enough right now. We do not have a handle on what's happening now.
And Brendan, isn't the distinction here that Ebola is not like malaria or something like that, more widespread? It's if you get it, you're at huge risk.
If you get it, you're at risk. But I mean, honestly, the worst thing that I've read about this is about 2 weeks old. It's an essay in Slate that it says the problem with Ebola is that it robs you of your humanity. If your child gets it, you cannot touch your child and care for your child. I think that's what's heartbreaking about this.